Yes, hello, how are you?
My husband, Jonathan.
Oh, hello, how are you? Be safe from Scandinavian environment.
I am Sidney Offutt, and I am the president of the Authors Guild Foundation. In my day, publisher's lunch meant 2 martinis, maybe a salad.
A meaningful, open conversation among authors, agents, and publishers about the business contours of book publishing, as we're in the midst of this unpredictable digital transition. I'm sure that's why you're here as well. And the overall economics of the book business that hasn't won a lot of fans yet in the agent and author community. So I'd like to let you start us off by explaining more about where you're coming from and what you're trying to achieve in the proposals that you've made.
Thank you, Michael, for that surprise first question. The proposal we made that went out initially in a contract that we sent out to a few agents to get their initial response and was later published in the New York Times. It was essentially, what we did is trying to determine what the correct percentage of net proceeds would be on the electronic side of the business. What we did is we took our P&L out and we said, okay, what is the net proceeds of net sales we currently pay out as a percent of net sales? What is our royalty expense? And if you add together all the royalty expenses, mass market paperback, trade paperback, high discount, premium sales, everything all in, turns out we pay authors roughly 18.6%. I said, okay, under 20, I'll round it up, 20%. It was literally that simple. That's how we came to the conclusion. We batted around. We heard that we had heard that some people were at 25, some people were 20. We thought, well, 20 is right for our house, for the publishing we do. Mathematically, that is the correct number for us. And so we rolled it out. And delighted to say, everybody said, oh, that's a fantastic idea. We got a whole bunch of feedback in pretty, I would say, within a couple hours. That was less than satisfactory in the minds of many in the agent community. So what we've been doing since is sort of gathering up that information that people have been frank with us about. And, you know, if you're asking where are we now on the percentage royalty, we haven't officially changed our stance, which is 20%, but we have understood that the marketplace, as we understand it now, is at 25%. And so we will be flexible in our royalty as we go forward.
I think because we're at an Authors Guild event, I need to go down a certain path, because I can look at this room and see a lot of authors who are at different places in their career, and what strikes me is how essentially unfair taking an average based on print book, applying it to a new format, and then telling people, well, depending on how good your representation is, or how much power your representation brings to the negotiating process, will be flexible, and perhaps as this moves along, we'll change it again. And it feels like a little bit of corporate doublespeak to me. And I mean, I work in an agency where, yeah, I'm sure we could go in and demand the 25%, and that's great, but I'm also looking at people who may not have that. And I think at a time when we're reinventing the business, for lack of a better term, I mean, I think we're going through a very, very big transition. Is it not a moment to think about playing it a little straighter?
Oh, look, absolutely. It's what we have to do is make some determinations across. You know, it won't surprise you to know that when we come out with a new boilerplate contract that totally sort of looks at the electronic side of business, that perhaps the royalty rate wasn't the single comment across the whole contract.
Oh, I looked at it this weekend.
Right. There's a large, there's going to be a large amount. So again, look, this is nothing different than it has always been. If a very large author comes to us with a very powerful agent, they don't get the exact same deal that an author coming in off the street with their first novel gets. Never have. Now, royalty rates have often been similar, but I do say similar. They have been actually markedly quite different if you stack up from the bottom to the top all the clauses of the contract. They have been quite different. So what we are trying to do is go through a negotiation process, first with the major agency, actually in order of the books that we do, find out what all the points are. We have been through this already with folks at the Authors Guild. We've been through with Jan and Paul. We've had 1 or 2 meetings on it now, I think, some phone stuff and a meeting. They are working very hard to represent what you would call the unagented author, right? And I think we're making progress. I think by the end of the process, we'll come up with something that I believe you will not think is corporate doublespeak and is pretty straightforward. But it's a process, and I'm not going to do it piecemeal, I'm going to change the royalty rate today, and I'm going to change something else tomorrow. We're going to do it as a whole.
So, let's get to backlist for a moment. Do you mind, Michael, if I...
How about it? I got something.
Deep backlist, I assume, is going to be received, or any backlist, but I'm specifically interested in those books that are kind of a little bit more forgotten that you, I assume, are digitizing and will make available as ebooks and maybe print on demand. I don't know if that's part of what you're...
Yeah, well, look, at the end of the day, if you have an electronic file and you pay for the conversion, there's no reason not to have it available in print on demand, of course.
So, those books, which I would imagine, if they sell, are a pure profit center, insofar as if it's deep backlist, one assumes you've either written off the unearned advance
Or not.
or not. Well, I'll just get straight to it. To me, there's a really significant difference in backlist and frontlist when it comes to conversion to ebook, and it feels to me that when a book is out of print, or essentially out of print, when a book is out of stock and being brought back, a larger share should be going to the author because the expenses you have are lower. The marketing expenses are lower. There's absolutely no print, paper, and buying. We're assuming all of that was written off years ago, and that I'm trying to understand the rationale when there are fewer costs involved in making this product.
Yeah.
How you're comparing it to the paper book.
Wait, can I step back and say, if we're talking about backlist, let's go to the beginning and see whether the publishers have the rights for the deep backlist. Sorry, I mean, that's, so before
I assumed we would get there, but thank you.
We'll get there quickly. I mean, before we discuss royalty, one has to know who has the rights. And I think that is what is of great interest to an awful lot of people in the room and to open road media, my opinion. And I think that the most important thing is to resolve that first. I wanted to say something about what John said about writing a new contract and all the issues that come up. It takes forever to write a new contract. And it's to get it passed through everybody's hands. And I say that with great knowledge because I was actually at Random House in 1994 when a new contract was written that included a reference to e-rights. So I was there when that was put in. That's on the side of e-rights for backlist. But the truth is that I think that the issue that we have today is, you said something about us being in transition. I don't think we're in transition. I think we have to face the fact that we are in a revolution. It's not an evolution, which is what I have been calling it all along. This is a revolution. And we have to, I have been a publisher for 40 years. I have spent my career in 2 places. And I feel very strongly about all the books that have come out throughout those 40 years and before those 40 years. And I think that we are at a time now that we have to look at the publishing industry. All of us in this room love the publishing industry, I assume. And all of us chose the publishing industry because we believe in bringing the words of authors to the public. And I think we now have to look at where we are headed with what we are doing as a publishing community.